The Iowa quarterback situation has reached the point where the football staff needs to make a decision. It's time to name the starter, give him the reins, and let this team move forward with its QB1.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We are your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast. Well, coming up today on the program, we're going to be sorting out the defensive backfield. Tom Kakert is going to join us from Hawkeye Report. A lot of football conversation with Tom, and he's got something for us in the defensive backfield with an injury that has been lingering throughout fall camp that very well could change the equation of what they look for in the back five of the defense coming up this season. We'll talk with Tom also about the non-conference basketball schedule. We'll break down Beth Goetz and her contract extension and a lot of conversation about football, including the quarterback spot. And that's where I want to begin the show today, talking about quarterback and what we saw a week ago on Saturday at Kids Day when Jeremy Hecklinski lit things up. He had a day at the quarterback position really unlike anything that we've seen in an incredibly long time, throwing the football around, making plays, beautiful throws, on time, just so un-Iowa-like what we normally see during the one open practice that we get during the springtime. It was the fall time, excuse me. It was that one time where the excitement definitely was building. Now, I've laid this out before and my thought pattern behind this, why it is important for Jeremy Hecklinski, I believe, to get the starting nod. And it's not just about what happened on Saturday, though that is a big component of it. And really, this is not, for me, a big part of Jeremy Hecklinski. It's more about the Hank Brown piece of it and what has already been built up from the Iowa fan base. After what we've seen from him, when the bright lights have been on, Hank Brown has not delivered. And you go back to the beginning of his career when he started at Auburn, got a couple of opportunities, had a game in a non-conference game where Auburn absolutely dominated. He looked good in that one. Then he gets a start a week later against Arkansas, a very middling team a couple of years ago. And what does he do? He throws 3 interceptions. Early in that football game, it was game over, and Auburn could never get over the hump against a pedestrian Razorback squad. Now we fast forward to a year ago. We've talked about the Indiana game and what we saw in that one. The screen pass will be remembered for an incredibly long time. I don't know if that'll be anything that'll ever empty out of my memory bank of Iowa football. You had the national champions on the ropes. You complete a screen pass, it is game over. You make a block, you pick up the first down, you run the ball probably inside the 15-yard line, you got a chip shot field goal, Indiana out of timeouts, you win that football game. And at minimum, we're talking about, instead of an undefeated 16-0 Indiana Hoosier squad, 15-1 in their one blemish against the Hawkeyes, and that would have been oh so sweet. Alas, that didn't happen because Hank could not complete the pass. And there was more traffic at his feet, I think, than people maybe remember on that one. It was not that there was nobody around him. There was traffic there. It was not the easiest pass, but still, as a Division I quarterback, it's a pass that you have to complete. Then we go and fast forward into spring football. And though Hank Brown, I think, closed the gap with Jeremy Hecklinski after fall camp, and we continue to hear it was going to be close, it was going to go all the way throughout camp. Yes, that is there, but we know with the fan base where they are, it is time for Jeremy Hecklinski. This is not to say that Jeremy Hecklinski is going to be elite, that Jeremy Hecklinski is even going to be good, but for the betterment of the fan base, for the betterment of this team, it is time to go with Hecklinski. And the time is now. And the reason that I come to this conclusion is the timing of this as we go through. Now, coming up on Saturday, they will have their final run through, their big scrimmage that they have, the intersquad scrimmage that is always so big for this football program. And it is kind of, if you will, before school begins, the last time that you get away from game prep. And it is an opportunity for everybody to get one shining light, one more opportunity to show the coaches exactly what they can do. The coaches know at this point. I mean, they have a great idea of the way that this thing is going to play out. But when it comes to the quarterback spot, it is different. And it doesn't matter if a call comes from an Iowa reporter, if Chad Leistikow gets it, or Tom Kakert, or anybody else on the Hawkeye beat. It doesn't matter where it comes from, or somebody on the national scale, if we hear that. But the decision needs to be made. We don't need to take this thing all the way up until game week and have to wait until the Monday press release that will come, and we'll get the two deep that'll be there and have either one of the two guys listed as a starter or even put the or in between them. You want to wait? I thought it was maybe going to be a Friday news dump. Now, here we are late on Friday evening, and still no decision, no determination has been handed down, at least out there in the media, and for you, in turn to the fans, that has not happened. But I think we're all ready for it. I think we all know the direction that it feels like it needs to go at this point in time. And instead of dragging that out, go ahead. Give Jeremy Hecklinski the job. Let's see what the guy can do. He's got some moxie to him. There's something a little bit different, and it's something fun. You know, we as Hawkeye fans, we have had to deal with now a long run of all the running jokes about Iowa football and the boring offense. And for somebody that grew up in the 80s when Iowa was cutting edge, where Iowa football and certainly offensive football, it wasn't just the gadget plays and the trick plays that Hayden would pull out. It wasn't the pink locker rooms. It was also that this was a program that helped, A, break up the Big Two and the Little Eight, but secondly, that they were innovative offensively, that they were doing things that weren't heard of. And year after year, you're going to have an all Big Ten quarterback back there at the helm. That was something that was fun. And those wins are always fun, and it doesn't matter the fashion. You'd certainly rather take that than the other side of the coin. Still, we have seen, we have dealt with it, we have watched some ugly offensive football. And there's something about Jeremy Hecklinski being a little guy with a little moxie, maybe does things a little bit more unconventional, that does feel very Iowa-like with the quarterback spot that has just struggled so much now over the last 6 years. And we've just gone through this year after year after year. Let's see something a little different. Let's shake it up. Let's go a different direction that is not the easy one. Because Hank Brown, he looks the part. He looks like a quarterback. He throws like a quarterback. He's certainly got all the arm talent. The problem is I just don't think it shows up when it matters most. We'll see on that front if we get any determination coming up this week. Maybe Saturday will be enough to push it over the edge, and we'll get an answer on that front. We're going to talk about this a little bit more with Tom Kakert. HawkeyeReport.com, your daily source for Iowa Hawkeye content over there. Tom, Blair, and the whole crew always do great work. Kyle Huseman, who does a lot on the women's basketball side, Iowa baseball. He covers soccer. He does a lot. Great group of guys over there at Hawkeye Report, and we're going to talk with Tom coming up on the other side. We'll talk about that, some special teams, a little basketball, and Beth Goetz contract extension. Lots of conversation coming up next with Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com. Stay right there as we continue. This is your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast, Locked On Hawkeyes. Since 1986, the game has been creating classic college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, current student, season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. This year, the game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of their most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time. You see the hat that I'm wearing right now? Yes, it is the game hat. I got a couple of them now. Got the white one, this one, the black one. If you're watching us on YouTube, you see my Hawkeye hat, and it's got that old school look to it, the same one that I was wearing back in the 90s when I was a student at Iowa. With hundreds of officially licensed hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for game day and every day. Don't miss this chance to celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com and use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com with the promo code LOCKEDON. Celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off. But don't wait. This anniversary offer won't last forever. Trent Condon back with you once again here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Time to talk some more Hawkeyes, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the quarterback competition as we're joined by Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com. I want to start here at the place that we start pretty much all the time. That's the quarterback position. And I had this working theory that just popped into my mind last night. Is if it's time for us to know who it's going to be. Now, I haven't heard how practice has gone this week. Maybe you have some on that one. I know you had a report that things were a little bit slow getting started for Hecklinski at the beginning of fall camp and, of course, what we saw on Saturday. But what is the right time, not just for the fans and for us in the media, but also for the team, if they're ready to make a decision and not let this thing drag into the season? When is the right time for Iowa to announce the choice of quarterback?
I think we've kind of gotten a hint from Kirk on when maybe he would want to make a decision. Now, Tim Lester's going to factor into this heavily. I mean, it is really going to be kind of Tim's decision to make here as far as the starting quarterback, and then Kirk will kind of follow suit, I think. So Wednesday is maybe the day to kind of point to and look at, because after Wednesday, they're going to start their game week prep, and after next Wednesday. So, I think that might be kind of a time frame of, the Wednesday before the game week. So that would be maybe the time when they kind of make a decision. So that may be something to point to. May not be anything. It may be they're going to just drag this out into season, which is still kind of what I feel like might end up happening.
I said after the spring, I thought we were going to see both the guys in the first half of the first game after Saturday. I hope that's not the case, but I have a feeling you might be right on that one. Tom, as we go through and we saw it was just one practice on Saturday, but Hecklinski dropping the ball in a bucket. I go back to Hank Brown in big moments. He just hasn't shown up. Do they still have their inter-squad scrimmage? Is that coming up this weekend? I know in the past it'd been like a week after Kids Day that they have that and kind of their one last final push and really a chance to impress the coaches on true 11-on-11 environments. Do they still do that, and is that tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that'll be tomorrow when they'll do that, because remember, classes start for these guys Monday. So they're going to have their academic requirements that they're going to have to be a part of and everything. So, I would anticipate that they're going to have a scrimmage coming on this weekend, and maybe that goes a long way to doing it. Now, I will point something out that somebody close to the team pointed out to me about Hecklinski is he did most of his damage against the second unit on defense, and there is something to that, too, that Hank was going up against first defense, but still, Hank didn't do very well against the first defense either. So, but it was something that was pointed out to me that, hey, let's maybe kind of point that out just to be fair. And I think 4 of the 5 touchdowns were against second team defense. So just something that someone pointed out.
All right. Well, I also saw Hank against the first and second team, and he looked terrible the whole time. And
that is a very, very fair point to make too.
It's for me, it's not even really a Hecklinski thing. It's not about the 5 touchdowns. It's just Hank. We saw him against Indiana. Screen pass wins the game. He can't complete it. We saw him when he was at Auburn. 3 interceptions when he finally played a team worth of crap and a very below average Arkansas team. 3 interceptions in that one. He just has the same look and the same thing. Yeah, he scrambled around a couple of times, but I'll just put it out this way. He gives me a lot of memories of Spencer Petras. That it's as simple as that. He's more athletic than Spencer. He looks the part, though. He's got the big size, but he's got those elements when the pocket's collapsing and he's pooping his pants. He doesn't have the requisite pocket presence of a quarterback, and I don't think you can fix that, Tom.
There is validity to that, complete validity to it. And I know Kirk is big on prove it in practice, but you have to look at game as well and what that entails. So we'll see what happens here. I just kind of think they want to maybe look at both of them in a game and make that final box checked. But maybe they'll make a decision, after Wednesday, and just kind of go, you know what, this is the direction we're going to go, and just kind of move that way. I think that would be what Kirk prefers. I wonder if Tim wants to check the game box just to make sure.
I think that's an important one, too, to see how that works. And, well, we'll get more answers coming up here. Have you heard, is Kirk going to have a press conference before the week of the game, or is this going to be just a kind of a holding pattern until we get there?
as far as I know, it's going to just be our usual Tuesday before the game presser. So we may not get anything, but if they make a decision about quarterback, I think something's going to trickle out. Just think something will pop. I don't know that they'll make a formal announcement, but maybe they will.
Yeah.
But I think there are little things that get out every once in a while, and that's probably one of those little things.
Well, Tom, we talk about the quarterback a ton, but there's other groups, position battles, things going on. Cale Winter looks to be potentially the guy at the center spot. Cade Pieper back to guard, and talking about getting the best five out there. This ascension, though, by Cale Winter, I remember hearing about him. I think it was maybe back when we called it redshirt freshman year. His name came up a couple of times from some people here in Central Iowa that he's doing a good job, and they really like him over there. Love these kind of stories, and these are the stories we know Kirk Ferentz likes as well.
Love story. I first heard about him because guys, I'm like, hey, who's the guy I should playing really well or showed you something this year? And Jennings Dunker told me without hesitation, watch Winter. He's really good. And I kept tabs on him and I kept him on the radar, and here he is. And I think this is just a case of when you sort it out and you put Pieper at center and whoever else you put at guard, it wasn't as strong as Winter at center and Cade Pieper at guard. And I think that's kind of what ended up happening. And I think Jack Belchler feels more comfortable at right tackle with Pete at right guard. And I think Winter's going to be pretty solid, and he could potentially be a 2-year starter for them at center too.
Oh yeah, got that extra year, the 5-for-5 rule. Well, there was an announcement earlier on Friday today that the injunction that had been placed there and the players getting their extra year of eligibility in the class of 2022. Well, now that has been overturned. Of course, that led to a lot of speculation. Maybe Aaron Graves could come back. I talked about that yesterday. It felt like a long shot. Obviously, if he makes the Ravens team, there's not even hope of that. Well, that's back off the table. You mentioned class is starting on Monday. I mean, these guys got to get this thing figured out pretty quickly. So where are we training for once again? Is it going to be yet on the other side now, on the player side, right back to court again?
I would guess it's going to be more players going to court. And to date, I do know that Iowa, at least kind of after the injunction in Louisiana was put out there, and it also included NFL players could come back if they wanted to. And that's when, Iowa starts making a phone call to Aaron Graves' agent and, hey, is there any interest? And we'll see what happened there, but you had to wait to see what would happen legally. And now looks like it's, at least for now, off. And we don't even know if Aaron was firmly interested. We just know that Iowa was interested in him, and why wouldn't they be? It's probably their weakest position group. And you could get a second-team All-Big Ten guy that played 600 snaps last year back in the fold. And he knows what he's doing, and he's in game shape because he's been working with the Ravens. So that's a no-brainer if you could get him back. But we don't know what it would take. And he, it's probably a long shot he's going to be on their 53, but could he get on the practice squad? Potentially, and that's, if you're in the practice squad the whole season, it's probably about $250,000. But Iowa could offer him, a Godfather offer, and maybe get that done. If you offer him $1 million or something, you get it done. But we'll see. Right now, it's not even a possibility because he's not part of that lawsuit.
We go right back the other direction, and back and forth we go with the NCAA and athletics and athletes trying to get another year. I want to jump over to the defense, and we didn't get to see Kenneth Merriweather. We didn't get to see Tyler Brown, two anticipated starters for the squad this year. On the injury front with both of those guys, I remember Brown said something when I was standing by him. It's not minor and it's not major. Great. Hard to get a lot of determination out of what that injury looks like. The hope both those guys are going to be back. And what you've heard about Merriweather, the most veteran guy out of that defensive line group at the defensive end position, a guy that got some reps over the last couple of years, just how good he could be this season.
Yeah, I think Merriweather, he'll be back. I'm doubtful that Tyler Brown's going to make it for week 1.
Oh, wow.
I don't think he's going to be ready. It's a hamstring issue, and I'm kind of doubtful. So you might see Anthony Hawkins out there for the opener at strong safety. So hamstrings, as you know, can be tricky, and just the fact that he hasn't gotten into practice yet makes you pretty concerned that he might not make it. But I think Merriweather will be there, and Merriweather will give him a presence, and a guy who's had some experience. He's ramped up his leadership, so they've got something there. But it's at back end, the defense would take a hit because I know they were really high on Brown.
Absolutely. Brown, I think, is a guy that looks to be special there. And if Hawkins continues to develop, I think that leads to also what you do with Lutmer. We know about his versatility, and if it makes sense for him to go back to the cash position, what does that mean for Jacob Wallace? What you saw in that defensive backfield, and some of those young guys, Wallace definitely taking a step forward. You know what you have in Deshaun Lee on the outside, but just overall, take kind of Lutmer out of the equation, but the rest of the group, a lot to be excited about, I think, in that Hawkeye defensive backfield.
Yeah, I thought Deshaun Lee really took a step forward last year. Second half of the year really improved and played better. Liked what I saw from Jalen Watson second half of the year. Godfrey got better last part of the year. I know Phil really likes Jacob Wallace and his competitiveness, so I suspect he's going to be the cash unless they could find a way to get Lutmer there. But that seems kind of off the table. The other two guys to watch, I would say, for freshmen, Marcelo Vitti, who was working second team at free safety, and Phil loves him. He's just kind of one of those instinct guys that just plays hard and tough and hits and does all the Phil Parker things. And then Darian Jones, the cornerback, I think he might be, kind of next man in that cornerback position if they need it. He's got unusual size for a corner. He's at least 6'1", and just really premium athlete. So he's a player that I think you're going to have to watch.
Tom Kakert joining us from HawkeyeReport.com. I saw varying degrees. So I was there with my son, Jack, and on Saturday at Kids Day, and watching the special teams, I thought both the punters were okay. Maybe Boston Everett has a touch more raw leg talent, but we also saw a clunker out of him, a 20-yarder that went into the stands, and then he rips off a 55-yarder right after that. But then the kicking game, I know Blair was charting things for you at Hawkeye Report. It felt like the numbers that he charted were better than I remember. It felt awful. The long snapping had some issues. There was a lot there where my concerns, and something we've talked about a lot here recently, Tom, over the last couple of weeks with those special teams, it ratcheted up for me to an even higher degree.
I said about a month ago, we're not talking enough about special teams, and it's kind of, come to the front of the line now that they just, talking to Chris Polisi at Media Day, it was more of like we've got a good competition kind of thing, which kind of made me think, boy, they weren't great. Now, I've heard that they were better this week so far than they were on Saturday, at least the field goal kickers, because the field goal kickers, 8 of 12, 7 of 11. We like to dabble in the dark arts of gambling sometimes. Over under number of field goals Iowa makes over 50 yards this year, and I put it at 1.5, and I take the under probably. I just don't know that they have a kicker that they're going to have confidence in doing that, and how that is going to manifest itself is, do we see Riverboat Gambler Kirk again, where he's going for it on 4th and 2 from the 35 and doing some different things that maybe he might have not done in the past because of the kicking game and the concerns of that and not having confidence in it. We'll see. I think Boston Everett's going to be the punter, but I can't say that with 100% certainty. I'm just basing that on the fact that the number one snapper on their list was working with him exclusively on Saturday.
And you told us a little bit about Matty McLaughlin. Keep an eye on him, the freshman long snapper that came in. Boy, he looks little compared to Ike Speltz and what we're used to. You can definitely tell that's an 18-year-old kid that just showed up on campus, but he's also got ability. He gets that ball back there. Might just be a size thing for him in year number 1. Tom, I want to mention one thing, and great work out of you, because I missed this one and didn't even think about it when we were interviewing the players last week, and that is Josh Janowski, 19-year-old, second-year player who has been battling cancer. I completely forgot about this story. I love listening and watching the interview that you have up on Hawkeye Report with him. Just what a great story and what a great young man.
Yeah, I've been waiting to talk to him for a while. And, obviously he was kind of out of commission basically last year for part of the time with, because it was a year ago to the day of media day when he got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and had to start treatment, had a port put in. Just incredible story that he's made it back so quickly. And, being 19 years old and having to deal with that is just, boy, that's heavy. That's really heavy. And to his credit, he's just battled and fought and he's back in there. And, he's making an argument to be a second-team offensive lineman for the Iowa Hawkeyes this year and probably get some playing time. And what a story that would be if he's out there 1 year later after battling cancer and just had such a great attitude, a positive attitude. And just, I root for stories like that and kids like that, like Mike Myslinski too, who's dealt with everything in the world. And just, and Mike helped Josh get through the stuff because Mike's brother had cancer. And so he kind of knew how to deal with that as a friend. And Josh said he was really instrumental. And so with George Barnett, Kirk, Ferentz, everybody was just backing him up. So just a cool story. And glad I could talk to Josh about it.
You can find it at HawkeyeReport.com. Also search on YouTube, Hawkeye Report. You can find the interview there. Really, really good one from Tom. Tom, couple more for you, a couple of newsy items. First, Beth Goetz, a contract extension for the Hawkeye AD through 2032, a pay bump that goes along with it up to $1.4 million, but much deserved. I know there were some other programs maybe starting to sniff around. Speculation, Michigan with Ward Manuel moving on. Could that be a destination for somebody that has had some pretty difficult circumstances? You have to fire the all-time winningest coach in men's basketball in Fran McCaffrey. You have to get rid of the offensive coordinator. Oh, by the way, the coach's son and Brian Ferentz, and the way that she was able to do that. Well, she was still the interim at that time that she made that decision. She's navigated it, coupled with the NIL. She's been an absolute home run, and good work out of Iowa locking her up.
Yeah, just a tremendous hire. And, the minute she got hired as the deputy AD, you kind of knew that Gary was going to be leaving soon and that this was going to be the destination for her to be the athletic director. And it took a while to get through that interim process too. So, but she's terrific. And I'm almost certain that Michigan probably inquired about her because she's got a flawless resume and reputation. Just, she is high quality. And I think she's nimble enough to kind of man the changes that are going on in college athletics and be ready for them where, no disrespect to Gary Barta, but I'm not sure Gary would have navigated these waters as well as Beth has because he was more of from the old world of athletic directors. So Beth, I think, is able to navigate the NIL and be able to continue to put out good product on the field, on the floor, whatever sport it is for the University of Iowa.
And then the non-conference basketball men's schedule has finally been released. We've been waiting for this. Now, we knew the major components of it. We've known them for a long time. The neutral court games with Virginia Tech. One thing that jumped out to me, Tom, I mentioned this yesterday, Virginia Tech, at least according to Torvik's kind of preseason projections, a little bit better than I thought coming in the year. I think number 36 for them. The Alabama game, Iowa State, on and on and on. The bye games are kind of whatever here, but you can kind of see the method behind the madness here of how Coach McCollum is looking to build out this schedule and maybe a glimpse kind of going forward of what they want to do.
And one of the things they're doing is with those neutral games, and it's part of that net where the qualification for being a Q1 win in the net is a little different out of the neutral site game. So that's why they're doing some of those. And I thought the they're bye games. I mean, they are what they are. It's just, you're going to have some of those. But Xavier, I think, is going to be a little better than people think. I think they're 56 at Torvik, and maybe they're probably going to be a little bit better than that. But, yeah, Virginia Tech surprised me, too, 19-13 last year. I think they've got a good chunk of their team back. But, it'll be an interesting stretch in there when they've got the Virginia Tech game and Creighton in the same week and in November. So we'll find out a little bit about this team. And then right after that, it's a Friday night game at Xavier, too. So we'll get 3 pretty good tests early in the season.
And, of course, we have the double plays. They'll have a couple of those early December games. And But it's not always against your double plays, right? It's not that it's simple that we know it's going to be Nebraska, Ohio State, or Wisconsin. Probably at least at minimum one of those 3 teams, you'll have one of those games. But it's all over the place. It feels like never know what it's going to look like. Some years they've had a couple of really difficult games. And overall, that is something that sunk Fran's team so many times. How many 0-2 starts do they have in the Big Ten there, including some head-scratching losses?
Oh, my gosh. And they've had some where they've thrown them up against like Michigan State and whoever else, Michigan State on the road or something. It's like, what are you doing? Poor Fran. Or a Purdue game. There was a Purdue game, I think, one year in there, and it's like, oh goodness. But that'll be good because that's the right before the Iowa State game too. So that'll be a good stretch for them as well.
A couple of important ones, and I'll tell you, when I was looking through the schedule, I got a little PTSD when I saw Eastern Illinois pop out.
Marty Simmons, yeah, they beat the Hawks. I noted that when I wrote a piece about, I ranked the teams yesterday in terms of difficulty, and I kept them out of the basement simply because Marty Simmons and crew came into Carver Hawkeye and walked out with a 92-83 shocking win in 2022.
I remember it, unfortunately, too vividly, Tom, on wasn't that an afternoon game on top of it?
Yeah, it was just a weird, you just kept waiting, and then it never happened, and there they were, losing to a really bad Eastern Illinois team. Yeah, but Western Illinois, and I hate to say that for my friend John Bonenkamp, but Western Illinois is the worst team that they play.
Leathernecks.
Yikes.
Yeah, looking like a good one on that one. Well, Tom, out of time for today. Always appreciate your time joining us here on Fridays. We'll be closer to football next week. It'll be week 1 of the high school season here in the state of Iowa and week 0 for college football. Looking forward to that. Tom, appreciate it. All the work over at HawkeyeReport.com. And that good deal still continues for Hawkeye Report?
Still going. They keep extending it. We keep selling a lot of subs, so they're like, hey, let's just keep rocking and rolling. So, 75% off. That's $2.50 a month to get it. So, stop by and join us if you can.
HawkeyeReport.com. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Trent.
Coming back on That's Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, joining us here on a Friday as we get closer and closer to football season. Well, Tom dropped a major nugget there. Tyler Brown potentially not even being ready for the start of the season. What does that do for the defensive backfield? We'll shift that around and talk about that when we come back. This is your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast, Locked On Hawkeyes. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick on who you will think hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on the matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Well, the Cubs are in action out in the West Coast against Seattle. Some late night baseball. PCA, he's the favorite for the MVP. Can he stay red hot with the bat? You can fire away at that on FanDuel. Are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of MLB. Trent Condon back with you one final time here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. As we wrap things up today, it is time to take a peek at what we have in the defensive backfield. Now, we know Zach Lutmer, the versatility that he plays with, he can be your free safety, which we anticipate he's going to be this year. He can move over and play the cash position where we saw so much. I mean, you need an extra cornerback, he can go there. He is that Swiss Army knife that can go all over the place. It is that versatility that goes a long way, plus the playmaking ability that he has. Jacob Wallace looks to be the heir apparent at the cash position, plays with physicality, though not the biggest frame, and they've had all kinds of different kind of body types at that position, from thick and stouty with Sebastian Castro, the more lanky guy with Dane Belton, who got it all started, and on and on and on. They used a bunch of different guys in that kind of role. We know Deshaun Lee, he's going to be back there, but Anthony Hawkins has been the guy that has been playing strong safety with the Tyler Brown injury while he has been out, the Villanova transfer, very rangy at 6'3". I asked him over at Iowa Football Media Day, last week, and he mentioned he likes to play with that physicality coupled with the big frame. Definitely like that component too. But maybe this is something that does open things up and some different ideas that they can have in that defensive backfield. They also brought in Xavier Stiles out of the transfer portal. He's another guy that was getting reps, mostly with the 2s and 3s over at Kids Day last week, but at least another name to the mix. And Marcello Vitti, that is the youngster, the freshman that they really like. Darian Jones is another freshman that they really like on the outside. We saw Rashad Godfrey a year ago in the Nebraska game. He had a big lick in that one. The depth that they are building once again at defensive back, it is interesting. Tyler Brown, this is a guy that they really had penciled in, and maybe you could argue one of their best transfer portal additions that they have. If this thing lingers into the season, and with the soft tissue injury, with the hamstring injury, we know even when you're back, boy, those things can pop right back up. And if that's the case, definitely have to have that depth this season. And looks like Phil Parker has it in the defensive backfield. Out of time for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow over the weekend. Got a little bit more for you from over at Media Day. Some more player interviews we'll bring to you and give you something to do while you're out mowing. For me, it's going to be on the softball fields as we kick off our fall season with my daughter's softball team coming up this weekend. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. A shout out as well to everybody with us every single day, our everydayers. Thanks for being a part of the club with us over there, and couldn't do it without your support. Make sure you hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're on the podcast side, 5-star reviews. All that helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.